I request to all dignitaries to occupy their respective chairs. First session of General Assembly is about to commence.
Distinguished delegates, I now open the floor of this esteemed General Assembly to begin with proceedings as mentioned in United Nations. Now I invite the representative of Turkey to speak.
Today we gather not only as representative of the nations but as advocates of peace, dialogue, mutual prosperity. The agency, the water connect Turkey and Greece should be symbolized cooperation rather than division. Yet disputes over maritime boundaries, airspace and natural resources threaten to overshoot this shared heritage. The core of the issue lies in the fairness. Turkey, with the extensive coastline, seeks equitable treatment under international law. The principles of the equality is not political stance. It is a backbone of international diplomacy. Yet how can it be equitable for Greece islands? Some are located myriad kilometers from Turkey's towards climb maritime zones touch far beyond the region. Turkey is not here to provoke but to propose. We call dialogue grounded in the mutual respect. We do not wish to deny Greece its right but ensure 85 million Turkish citizens are also protected. Let us now not forget resolve disputes in the region will be not only affected our two nations but ripple across the entire region, determining stability and economic region. The region has witnessed countless exchanges of culture, commerce and civilization for millennia. Why should we allow its water to divide us now? Turkey extends its hands to Greeks and seek solutions to benefit not only our two nations but the broader international community. Together, we can ensure agency is remembered not for conflict but for collaboration. Thank you.
The delegate of Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President. The agency, a cradle of civilization and lifetime for countless generations. It is not just a body of water, it is a testament to history. Greece's position in this dispute rooted not in ambition but in adherence to international law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which sets clear guidelines for maritime boundaries. Greece islands, which are large and small, are not more dots on a map. They are homes to communities, holders of centuries, old traditions, and undeniable extensions of Greek sovereignty. Should geography alone dictate rights disregarding the principles enshrined in the International Court of Justice remains a viable path to resolve this dispute impartially. Greece is ready to engage in genuine, good faith dialogue as we believe in a future where the disputes are resolved not through power but through principles. The agency is not a battleground for dominance, but a shared resource that can unite us. We urge Turkey to join us in navigating a path towards peace. Let us ensure that the agency remains a sea of peace, not a sea of disputes. Thank you.
Thank you to both the countries. I wish for the peace in agency soon. Now a statement on peculiar situation in Democratic Republic of Congo. The delegate of Congo.
Mr. President, at a time when the world is thinking of going on to sun and building of colonies on Moon and Mars, the people in our country are still fighting for their survival and suffering with deadly diseases. Our nation has vast resources and immense potential, yet we are struggling with HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, and whatnot that pose a significant challenge to our healthcare system. The burden of non-communicable diseases is also very high in our country. Around 24,000 people, I repeat, 24,000 people die every year with malaria and 34% of deaths are due to non-communicable diseases. Despite our best efforts, infectious diseases, inadequate infrastructure and limited medical access remain a critical concern. The ongoing conflicts, displacement of population and economic instability have further intensified the crisis. Our country has faced many outbreaks of diseases like Ebola, cholera and malaria, and with recent global health challenge of COVID-19 pandemic, the situation has only become more severe. We urge the international community to give their hand and save our nation. Thank you.
The representative of South Africa.
Thank you, sir. South Africa is always prepared for helping its African brothers and sisters. We sympathize with the pathetic condition of the people of Democratic Republic of Congo and extend our heartfelt support towards restructuring their healthcare system.
We are committed towards building capacity of the healthcare system, sharing technology and expertise to combat diseases, collaborating on public health awareness campaigns, and sending humanitarian and economic aid as much as possible. The people and leadership of South Africa are ready to work together in solidarity to address challenges and to improve the lives of people of Congo. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates. I pray to God for the well-being of people of Congo and appreciate the South African government and people for their kind gesture. Next, I would like to call the delegate of Venezuela.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, in this esteemed house, I stand to speak on behalf of our nation. Brazil, it's time someone told you the hard truth. Your illegal mining operations are wreaking havoc, not just within your borders, but across the region. And Venezuela will no longer stay silent while your greed poisons our shared Amazon, exploits our indigenous communities, and fuels tension between our nations. Your miners do not respect borders. They cross into Venezuelan territory, stripping the land of its resources and leaving destructions in their wake. Rivers that once sustained life are now polluted with mercury. Forests that stood for centuries have been reduced to barren wastelands. And for what? A few ounces of gold? This is not a small scale problem. These are not isolated incidents. Illegal mining in Brazil is a sprawling, unchecked industry supported by networks of criminals and driven by a system that prioritizes profit over people and the planet. And when the dam spills over to Venezuela, you expect us to clean up your mess? Our indigenous communities are under attack. Brazil's illegal mining operations displace families, destroy scattered lands, and spread violence like a disease. These are the people who lived in harmony with nature for generations. People who are now being forced to watch their homes and heritage vanish because of your recklessness. Brazil love to talk about sovereignty and pride. Well, here is a reality check. Sovereignty doesn't give you the right to destroy everything in your path. Your so-called economic development comes at a cost that the Amazon and the rest of us cannot afford to pay. Sir, Venezuela will not stand idle while Brazil's action turn our shared Amazon into a wasteland. If Brazil won't take responsibility, then we will call that country out at every turn on every international platform in every regional summit. The Amazon is not just Brazil's to destroy. It belongs to all of us. Brazil claims to be a leader in South America. If so, start acting like one. Crack down on illegal mining, protect the Amazon, respect indigenous rights. Because if you don't, the world will see Brazil not as a beacon of progress, but as a destroyer of our region's future. The time for excuses is over. Clean up your act, Brazil, before there is nothing left to save. Thank you.
The delegate of Brazil.
Thank you, Mr. President, and all the fellow delegates present here. Brazil, the land of the Amazon, the beating heart of your nation, and the lungs of the world. The Amazon is not just a vast forest, it is our pride, our identity, and our responsibility. So, when accusations fly, painting us as the destroyers of this sacred land, it cuts deep. Let us be clear, we are not blind to the challenges of illegal mining possess not only the Amazon, but to our very soul. We know the rivers tainted by mercury, the forest sacred by greed, and our communities that suffer. These are not just headlining to us, they are very real, painful realities. But to paint Brazil as a villain, why to say we have turned our backs on Amazon? That is not just unfair, it is a wound to the millions of Brazilians who fight every day to protect it. Our government, our citizens, our indigenous people are battling against illegal mining possess not only the Amazon that exploit the land we hold. We have strengthened enforcement, dismantled mining camps, and invested in protecting our borders. But the fight is not easy. These criminals operate in the shadows, defying laws, evading borders, and undermining our efforts. And yet, we do not give up. The Amazon is our lifeblood and we will never abandon it. Accusing us of negligence, ignorance, the progress we have made and the sacrifices of those who stand on the front lines, environmentalists, law enforcement and indigenous leaders, many of whom have paid with their lives. We are not perfect, but we are trying. Illegal mining is not just a Brazil's problem, it is a global problem fueled by international demand for gold and other resources. If we are to save Amazon, we need collaboration, not condemnation. To our neighbors, including Venezuela, we say this: the Amazon does not belong to one country, it belongs to all of us. Let us work together to protect it instead of tearing each other down. Brazil will continue to fight for the Amazon because it is not just forest but our home, our heritage, and our hope for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The Amazon is not just the lungs of South Africa, but to the world. It's everyone's responsibility to protect it. I now call upon the delegate of Pakistan to open the discussion on Jammu and Kashmir.
I thank the President and my fellow delegates of this assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, the Jammu and Kashmir dispute is one of the longest pending disputes on the agenda of the United Nations Security Council. On the 5th of August 2019, India has initiated unilateral illegal steps, what it ominously called a final solution for Jammu and Kashmir. Day in and day out, 9 lakh Indian troops terrorize the people of occupied Jammu and Kashmir with the draconian measures including prolonged curfews, extrajudicial killings, and abduction of thousands of young Kashmiris. India is seizing Kashmiri lands and properties and settling outsiders into the occupied Jammu and Kashmir in the nefarious design to transform Muslim majority into minority. This wicked tactic is employed by the illegal occupier, but in Jammu and Kashmir shall fail by the grace of God. India's policy of brutal coercion and oppression in occupied Jammu and Kashmir had ensured that Burhan Wani's legacy continues to inspire the struggle and sacrifices of millions of Kashmiris. They are inspired by the legitimacy of the epic struggle. Its leadership has often threatened to cross the line of control and take over the Azad Kashmir. Mr. President, let me state that the Pakistan will respond most decisively to any Indian aggression. India went against 11 UNSC resolutions which say that the Kashmir is a disputed territory and the people of Kashmir have the right to self-determination. They went against Shimla Accord, which is sorting out differences through bilateral means. They actually went against Indian Constitution by illegally they revoking Article 370, which gave Kashmir the special status. They got extra 180,000 troops and put 8 million people of Kashmir in curfew. What sort of a mindset India had laid to seize the people with 9 lakh troops? Women, sick people, children locked in as animals, and it has blinded the arrogant PM of India from the fact what is going to happen when the curfew is lifted. Has he thought about it? What is he going to do after the curfew is lifted? Does he think that people of Kashmir will quietly accept the status quo because India has changed the Indian constitution and taken away the special status? That 1 lakh people has died and 11,000 women have been raped. 13,000 boys have been picked up and taken to God knows which destination. Kashmiris will be further radicalized and there will be another Pulwama. And guess what? India will blame us. They are already blaming us by saying that all this is happening because of Pakistan. One of the defense ministers said that 500 terrorists were lined up on the border to go in. Why would Pakistan send 500 terrorists when there are 9 lakh troops in the border? And what impact they are going to make? Don't you think that Muslims will be radicalized in India? And I am talking about 180 million of people. Jammu and Kashmir is more a part of Pakistan than it can ever be with India. The people of Jammu and Kashmir, sir, are a part of people of Pakistan. In blood and flesh, in life, kith and kin of our culture, in geography, in history, in every way and in every form. Therefore, to secure durable peace, India must reverse the unilateral and illegal measures it has taken. and enter into the dialogue for peaceful resolution of Jammu and Kashmir dispute in an accordance with the UNSC resolutions and the wishes of the Kashmiri people. Thank you.
I now request the delegate of China to put forward their thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. President and my fellow delegates. China supports Pakistan based on considering the cruelties made by the Indian government on Kashmiris by taking away their special status. Also, people of Kashmir are very close to the culture of Pakistan. China extends its support to Pakistan in matters of Kashmir based on United Nations report. We support the developmental initiatives of Pakistan. We also provide financial aid, infrastructural projects, and military assistance through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor for the sake of Kashmiris. And we ask to end the atrocities made by the India on Kashmiris. Thank you.
I give the floor to Excellencies of India.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished members of the Assembly, greetings. भारत के 140 करोड़ लोगों के तरफ से मेरा नमस्कार. I congratulate the President of the General Assembly, His Excellency, and I strongly support the Assembly's theme, Unity Beyond Borders. Mr. President, this Assembly is regretfully witnessed a travesty, a country run by the military with a global reputation for narcotics trade, terrorism, and transnational crimes, has had the audacity to attack the world's largest democracy. I speak about reference to India in the speech about Pakistani delegate. Pakistan has long employed cross-border terrorism as a weapon against its neighbors. It has attacked our parliament, our financial capital Mumbai, marketplace in Hyderabad, and the list is so long. We have provided enough evidence of these attacks in the international platform for such a country to speak about the violence is hypocrisy at its worst. It is even more extraordinary for a country with a rigged elections to talk about political policy choices, that too in a democracy. The real truth is that the Pakistan covets our territory and in fact continuously used terrorism to disrupt elections in Jammu and Kashmir, an inalienable and integral part of India. There can be no compact with terrorism, and in fact Pakistan should realize that the cross-border terrorism against India will inevitably invite the consequences. It is ridiculous that the nation that committed genocide in 1971 and which persecutes its minorities relentlessly even now, dare to speak about intolerance and phobias. Our country has given importance to minorities as well. You can see that some of the important positions held by Muslims such as Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, APJ Abdul Kalam, Zakir Hussain, and also Sania Mirza in sports. Mr. President, we are talking about the country whose fingerprints are on so many terrorist incidents, whose policies always try to threaten sovereignty of other nations, and whose policies attracts the drugs in many societies. We strongly condemn to Pakistan to stop all these actions, and I request them to stop terrorism so that everybody can enjoy their minimum human rights. Pakistan has no locus standi to comment on your domestic matters as a country with world's worst human rights records, particularly when it comes to minority and women rights. Pakistan would do well to put its own house in order before venturing to point world's largest democracy. The condition of women belonging to Pakistan in minority communities as estimated is that 1,000 women are subjected to abduction and forcible conversion in their own human rights record. Here we quote that Pakistan has no right to speak about women in Kashmir. Recently, Christian community in Janjalwala, Pakistan in August 2023, a total of 19 churches and 89 Christian houses were burned down. Similar treatment was done to Ahmadiyas. I think it's unfair and unacceptable that Pakistan is talking about the rights of Kashmir. And it's so funny. We call upon Pakistan to take credible and verifiable action in order to be at peace in South Asia, firstly vacate Indian territories under its illegal and forcible occupation. And then it must stop human rights violation in their country before talking about others. Thank you, Mr. President.
The delegate of Turkey.
Thank you, Mr. President and fellow delegates. Turkey has historically been a strong advocate for the rights of the Muslims worldwide. We render unwavering support to the Pakistan considering the peace, prosperity, stability of the region. India must respect the international law and abide by the UN Charter, allowing Kashmiris to decide their future by a plebiscite. The reports of the human rights abused by the Indian military and the government raise serious concerns to Turkey. Baskalarinin halkararinin tanmaye, orinane kadar, asla ganchak, mediniyate shaib olamainjas.
We will never have the true civilization until we have learned to recognize the rights of others. Thank you.
Representative of Russian Federation.
We firmly support its sovereignty over Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir and consistently advocate for the Kashmir issue to be resolved bilaterally between India and Pakistan without third-party intervention. As a sovereign nation, India has the right to manage its internal affairs within constitutional framework. The revocation of Article 370 and reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir is their internal matter within India's jurisdiction. We recognize India's legitimate security concerns regarding cross-border terrorism and support any action for the safety of the people. We strongly oppose any external interference in India's sovereignty as it undermines international laws and principles. We encourage India and Pakistan to engage in a peaceful and constructive dialogue for a faster and resolution of the dispute. Thank you.
Kashmir belongs to us.
Bro, chill. You can't even handle your own provinces. Please first focus on what you have already.
We will take Kashmir from India at any cost.
Oh, you can't even control your own prime ministers and you're talking about Kashmir.
Thank you. Thank you everyone. The UN urges both the India and Pakistan to act responsibly in dealing with sensitive issues like Kashmir. Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to call discussion about disaster management. We will begin with Delegate of Mauritius.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mauritius experiences cyclones almost every year, leading to severe winds, heavy rains, and widespread destruction. Rising sea levels due to climate change increases coastal erosion, putting coastal communities and infrastructure at risk. And our country is enhancing the capabilities of weather monitoring and early warning systems to provide time alert. Also, developing comprehensive disaster management preparedness plans with community engagement, training, and evacuation procedures. We are focusing to develop infrastructure projects to minimize the damage from floods and cyclones. We encourage collaborations with regional and international organizations to combat disaster management. Thank you.
Delegate of Ethiopia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ethiopia emphasizes its commitment to disaster risk reduction, aligning our national policies with Sendai Framework and Africa Program of Action. We are making our efforts to manage climate change induced disasters like droughts and floods. There is a need for partnership among nations of the United Nations to combat disaster management. We actively seek partnerships and share our experience with other countries to improve disaster management practices across the continent. Thank you.
Representative of Maldives.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our country is facing major disaster due to raising of sea level. Maldives has invested more strengthening climate and disaster management risk governance systems. A combination of raising seas and waters shortages poses a threat to the Maldives, the lowest lying country on the earth. Climate change is impact more severe things we are facing right now. It is definitely a dangerous to our existence. To counter the threat, the United Nations Environment Fund is helping to us a development a national plan to adapt to climate change. One of the several UNP projects in the country. We are the first nation to benefit from United Nations push to roll out early warming systems to climate change. Disaster management such as floods that supports to comes out critical terms for Maldives. Maldives was the one of the 58 nations to contribute full shares UNPS Environment Fund. We call upon other countries to command disaster management by providing a technological development to help the speed up the process. Thank you.
Representative of Japan.
我が国は災害機能に起きなきように直面しているさまざまな国技術支援提供している。
Our country has provided technical assistance to a wide range of countries which are facing a major threat from disaster management.
Japan is combating disaster management through advanced technology by utilizing sophisticated early warning systems for earthquakes and tsunamis and utilizing AI-powered data analysis to predict disaster severity. We are essentially focusing on prediction, prevention, and efficient response mechanism through technology. We heavily focused on sharing technology related to earthquake prediction and mitigation, including seismic systems, through training programs, research collaborations, and information dissemination. We actively contribute to international organizations like World Meteorological Organizations to promote disaster severity. Thank you.
I appreciate Japan for coming forward to help other countries. Distinguished delegates, I now invite you to take part in discussion on nuclear armament and nuclear non-proliferation treaty. The representative of Marshall Islands.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Marshall Island is a small island nation with a tragic history of nuclear devastation. From 1946 to 1958, the United States used our homeland for a testing ground for nuclear detonations, including the catastrophic Castle Bravo test in 1954, the largest nuclear detonation in US history. This single explosion was 1,000 times more powerful than the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The legacy of these tests is etched into our land and our bodies. Thousands of our people were displaced from their ancestral homes, forced to live in exile, while their islands were rendered uninhabitable by radiation. Generations have suffered from radiation-related illness, including cancers, birth defects, and thyroid disorders. As our President David Kabua stated at the United Nations General Assembly in 2021, and one quote, "Our own survival is at risk as we struggle with the legacy of nuclear testing by the United States, and now with the existential threat of climate change. We did not choose to be the testing ground for nuclear weapons. This was imposed upon us." Despite promises of compensation and assistance, what has been provided is woefully insufficient. The Runit Dome, a repository for radioactive waste, is now leaking into the Pacific Ocean, threatening not only our environment but the entire region. We call on the United States and global community to provide adequate reparations, environmental cleanup, and healthcare support to our people. The world must not forget the sacrifices made by the Marshall Islands. Thank you.
Representative of United States.
Mr. President, the United States acknowledges the nuclear test conducted in the Marshall Islands. These tests were conducted at a time of heightened global tension, where development and testing of nuclear weapons was seen as vital to ensure global security. We recognize that these consequences have had a long-term impact on the Marshall Islands. To address this, Compact of Free Association was established, providing over $600 million as compensation, resettlement, and healthcare assistance. We have also funded for the extensive radiation exposure and committed to monitoring the environmental effects of the test. The United States values its strong partnership with the Marshall Islands, as mentioned by President Kabuba at UNGA. The United States remains our closest partner and ally, but we ask that they acknowledge and fulfill their full responsibility for the lasting harm caused by their nuclear testing program. We are committed to working with Marshallese people and international community to find solutions to ongoing challenges, including the Runit Dome's structural integrity and expanding our healthcare support. However, we believe that foundation laid through the Compact of Free Association represents a significant step towards justice. Thank you.
Representative of Marshall Islands.
Thank you, sir. While the United States has provided some compensation through compliance office and financial administration, the reality on the ground is far from satisfactory. Many of our people still live in poverty, unable to access the healthcare needed to address radiation-related illness.
The runny dome filled with radioactive waste is cracking and leaking into our ocean, threatening our food security and the health of future generations. The Non Proliferation Treaty, that aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology, has failed to keep up with the expectations. Countries like India, Pakistan, and Israel had possessed nuclear weapons despite by the ban of NPT. Every day, one or the other country conducts nuclear tests and threatens the global peace and survival of humankind. The actions or sanctions by the so called nuclear weapon states could not stop the ever spreading threat of great devastation. The continuous warning by USA, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Israel to use nuclear weapons are serious concerns for the international community. We call upon all the leading countries of this world to take serious efforts towards preventing the use of nuclear power for vested political interest and to act responsibly because they are not answerable to not only the international community but also to future generations on this planet Earth. Thank you.
Delegate of New Zealand.
Thank you, sir. New Zealand stands with Marshall Islands after the fight of terrible effect of nuclear testing. For many years, the people of Marshall Islands suffered as their lands were very used for dangerous nuclear experiments. This left the environment ruined, their healthcare, and many families were displaced from their homes. We fully support their fair compensation and better healthcare and urgent action to fix the problem of leaking benzoate doom. As a Pacific nation, the New Zealand understands the protects our shared oceans and communities. The nuclear waste polluting the Pacific is just not a problem of one country. I repeat, it's just not a problem of one country, but it affects everyone in the region. We strongly oppose using the Pacific as a testing site for nuclear weapons and demand that those who are responsible for it should take care of it and repair it. The Marshallese people deserve stay safely and live safely on their homelands without any fear of radiation or harm. The story of Marshall Islands shows us how dangerous nuclear weapons can be. New Zealand will continue to support a free Pacific, nuclear free Pacific and works towards a world without nuclear free Pacific. Kakarange moto kinaga iwikato moto Marshall kiti avihin ayorato. Mr. Thank you, Mr. Perehiten.
We call on all nations to stand with Marshall Islands and help them recover from the harm they have faced. Thank you, Mr. President.
The representative of Russian Federation.
Rossijskai Federațiana Niotko Otsvoi Tradiciono Ederno Energetiki Paka Ana Pradalzayot Stalkivatsya Sugruzoi Sosteroni Netoiego Sayuzniko.
The Russia Federation would not give up its traditional nuclear power as long as it continues to face the threat from NATO and its allies.
If any of the US, British, or European weapon falls into our country from Ukraine, then we will consider it as war of NATO on Russia. We do not want a disturbed world order, Mr. President, but it is evident that they have created critical threat to the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Russia or Belarus or any of our ally. We would do everything to avoid a nuclear war. In fact, it was the United States that used nuclear weapons against the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. They were responsible for the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. We always considered nuclear power as a means of deterrence, but the danger of a direct conflict of nuclear powers is not so far if they continue to provoke. Thank you.
Representative of India.
Thank you, Mr. President. India's nuclear policy strictly emphasizes on no first use policy, meaning it will not use nuclear weapons unless attacked first with such weapons. India had to develop its own weapons because of existing threats on our borders and in the neighborhood. We cannot compromise our integrity, sovereignty, and national security because of these threats. Although India is not a signatory nation in NPT, we support global nuclear disarmament, and is committed to preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. India advocates for a nuclear weapon-free world and has consistently called for the elimination of nuclear weapons through multilateral agreements. As our father of the nation and an inspiration of to many world leaders, Mahatma Gandhi propagated the idea of ahimsa, which means non-violence, as a way of settling disputes. We believe and are committed towards Sarvodaya, the welfare of all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All the big powers must act responsibly, as their actions can impact millions of people across the world. Safe and civilian usage of nuclear power can be allowed, but not the conventional usage in weaponry. Let us now open the floor to.
Thank you, respected Chair. Nepal stands here to express our concern regarding the interference of external intelligence agencies, particularly the Pakistani interstate intelligence, in Nepal's internal affairs. Though Nepal has maintained a stance of neutrality in regional geopolitics, there have been involvements of ISI in Nepal's politics. Pakistan's illicit activities of carrying out smuggling and counterfeit currency operations, exploitation of religious and cultural ties, human trafficking are posing security challenges to our country and our people. Nepal wants the external entities to respect our sovereignty and refrain from disturbing our political and security landscape. It is important to recognize the Nepal's position is often balancing relations with the regional parts to maintain peace and stability within our borders. Thank you.
Representative of Bhutan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bhutan here is expressed about concerns about ISI activities in our neighboring region. It creating a border dispute between India and Nepal and trying to create political instability in Bhutan. Pakistan well known for state-sponsored terrorism, and Pakistan has been activities in India and Bangladesh. Its activities have an impact on their sovereignty and internal security. ISI gathering intelligence and militant groups and influencing political affairs. In the posing threat, region peace and terrorist groups using Bangladesh as the transit hub. The recent activities in Bangladesh alarming as atrocities on the minorities and raising the influence of ISI-backed Islamist radicals. Pakistan support groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Muhammad in Jammu and Kashmir, Khalistans in Punjab. Insurgencies and been linked to major attacks such as 2008 Mumbai attacks, 2001 Indian Parliament attack, and Pathankot attack. They are destabilizing democracies, radicalizing activities, and threatening the sovereignty and integrity of the other nations. We appeal to world countries to take this issue seriously and act upon them. Thank you, Mr. President.
Representative of Pakistan.
Mr. President, the activities of the inter-services intelligence is of defensive but not interference in internal affairs of other countries. Our ISI is playing a key role in national security, counter-terrorism and regional stability. ISI is Pakistan's first line of defense against terrorism and foreign intelligence agencies attempting to destabilize our country. It is dismantling terrorist networks to secure regional peace. ISI's activities are necessary to maintain stability in South Asia, particularly concerning Afghanistan and India. ISI's covert operations are a means of defending Pakistan's interests. Pakistan strongly rejects such claims which are a part of Indian or Western propaganda. There is no evidence of ISI's involvement in supporting terrorist activities. Such accusations are baseless and aimed at maligning Pakistan. Thank you.
Delegate of Vietnam.
Honorable delegates, Vietnam is angry and deeply frustrated by the illegal military actions of China's Ministry of State Security in South China Sea. We have asked for the peace, for talks, for respect, but what do we get? More threats, more attacks, and more violations of our waters. The China's Ministry of State Security ignores the international law, harasses our fishermen, and tries to take what does not belong to them. Now, Vietnam will not sit quietly while our seas are taken and our people live in fear. We demand the China to stop these actions now, respect our rights, and follow the international law. The world is watching and the Vietnam will not back down. Thank you.
Representative of Venezuela.
I rise today to condemn the attempts of a notorious intelligence agency called the CIA. The American government is crossing possible every line to undermine the sovereignty of Venezuela. We have detained 2 Spanish nationals and 1 American national who were assigned the task of assassinating our president Nicolas Maduro for a bounty of $15 million. They want to overthrow the Venezuelan government, turn our country as a colony, and exploit our citizens. The US is continuously meddling into our internal affairs since many years in pursuit of the rich oil resources that we have. If they want to interfere in our politics, if they attempt to destabilize our government, if they greed for our oil or other resources, if they dare to enter Venezuela, then our guns are ready to receive you and send you to hell. Thank you.
I call upon all the nations to mutually respect the sovereignty and integrity of each other. Now the delegate can take break for a few minutes. We will reassemble soon.